Hey, vinyl community. Today I am joined by a very special guest, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you Matt Phillips. Now, if you've
Hey
ever
guys.
Hey, if you've ever watched Tim's Vinyl Confessions, Tim's been a guest on my channel. I've guested on Tim's channel. Matt is a frequent collaborator and participant and contributor to Tim's channel. Matt has an amazing collection. He's also into the Beach Boys like I am. I know he's a big Oasis fan. He's also a huge Kiss fan, all artists that we've talked about on this channel from time to time. And so Matt has been kind enough to join me today because Matt and I are both friends of, we're not friends, we're fans of the band INXS. So Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about how you got into INXS and how long you've been listening to them?
Sure. Actually, I'm one of those guys. I didn't actually discover INXS until Kick had already been out. I grew up listening to mostly hard rock and heavy metal. So INXS wasn't really in the periphery of bands that I was into. But I do remember being at my parents' house, just sitting on the floor working on homework and had my little TV in my bedroom. And the video for New Sensation came on. And I was like, who's this band? They look so put together. This is a really cool video. They've all got this kind of similar look and it's in a beautiful city. We'll talk about all that stuff later when we talk about the actual songs. But yeah, New Sensation. I saw the video and I fell in love with Michael Hutchence and the band and just how they interacted. And from there, I've been a huge fan. So.
Yeah, excellent. Now, Matt, if I didn't mention before, is from Canada. And
yeah,
sometimes the versions of the albums that we got, or in some cases maybe the video or the artwork is a little bit different in Canada than what we got here over in the States. And so it'll be interesting as we're kind of showing the albums that the songs we picked came from, if there's any differences in terms of the versions of the albums that we have. So what I typically do is I talk a little bit about how I got into the band. And I was a fan of INXS since the early 80s. When MTV came on the air, I saw the video for The One Thing, and I wrote the band's name was INXS. They always showed the little caption at the bottom. I thought, ooh, INXS. I wonder if there are any.
I was talking to Tim last night. I'm like, I wonder if I should troll Jeff and keep referring to them as INXS. I wonder how long that would go on for.
Yeah, I'm one step ahead of you there. Yeah, so it was a while before. I mean, it's funny to hear, but probably wasn't until the Listen Like Thieves album came out that I realized, no, it's INXS. And so I got into them. It was probably the first album that I owned on cassette was Shabu Shaba. And then I got into Listen Like Thieves heavily. And then when the Kick album came out, I bought that shortly after that came out. New Sensation, I thought, well, that song's fantastic. I love that song. And their songs from that album were all over the radio, obviously. But yeah, I've been a fan ever since. And did you see the documentary Mystify that came out? I don't know.
We did watch it late last year. I've got quite a few of their home videos and I'd been wanting to watch that. I think I finally rented it or watched it on Amazon Prime. So
yeah, it's a really good, and things that I never realized about Michael Hutchence was when he sustained that head injury, just how much affected him. He lost his sense of taste. He lost his sense of smell. I mean, that was really a trauma for him and devastating. And his life was never the same after that. They talk about how his personality changed a little bit. He was always just kind of a happy-go-lucky, very cheerful, very friendly guy. And his personality kind of turned to where he was getting a little bit more impatient, a little bit harder to work with. And so it was really, I found it sad. But also, I mean, it celebrated INXS's work, but there was a lot about Michael Hutchence that I never knew before watching.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know if you can see behind me, I've got their official biography.
Okay.
Definitely pick that up if you can find it. And there was a made-for-TV movie called Never Tear Us Apart. It came out in Australia. That one's a bit harder to find. I think I did see that one on Amazon Prime. It's I don't know if you've ever seen they did like a movie about Def Leppard, and they're kind of cheesy, and you know the actors sort of look like the band members. I thought they did a pretty good job, but again, it was very, you know, focused a lot on the Michael Hutchins. So,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
check it out. It's still got lots of cool stuff in it.
sure. Yeah, I think I might have seen the one on the Monkees.
Yeah.
With
I actually loved they recreated some of their album covers, but using the actors, and I thought they did a really good job with that. So,
yeah,
excuse me.
it's always nice when they do that. They're sort of like, oh, wait a minute, I recognize that cover, but it's a little
Yeah.
different. So we're going to get into, first of all, did you pick 5 honorable mentions?
You know what? Here's what I did. So I've got my 5 honorables. I've got my top 10. I started with a list of 40. This took me a long time to kind of call it down. So I've got everything here, and I'm ready to go. But yeah.
Yeah, I've got a friend, Aaron Mutha Alamer, who appears on this channel pretty regularly, and we always do our top 10 lists. And he's always like, "Well, I came up with 50, 40 honorable mentions in my 10." So yeah, I totally relate to that. But well, let's start with your honorable mentions, Matt, and you can just go through
Okay.
each of those.
Sure. Just one thing I'll mention. I've got to say that in putting this list together, I was very surprised with some of the songs that didn't make my list. Now, like I said, I started with 40, and just because I don't include, I'll give you an example. The One Thing didn't make my list.
Oh, wow.
What You Need didn't make my list. And I was like, what is this?
Mhm.
Suicide Blonde didn't make my list, and I love those songs, still love those songs. But yeah, let's get into it. 5 honorable mentions. So we'll just talk briefly about those and kind of
Sure.
show. Okay,
Mhm.
sure. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Beautiful Girl. So
Great one.
that came off of Welcome to Wherever You Are. There's a little hype sticker there for Beautiful Girl. I absolutely love this album, but I was surprised by how few songs actually ended up on my list.
We don't, Matt, that you show the vinyl there. How hard was it
Yeah,
to find that vinyl? Because I have never seen that on vinyl before.
I've never seen it myself. Actually, I'm going to be showing you a couple of vinyls that actually Tim has picked up for me. You know, for special occasions, birthdays and Christmas. I got to give a shout out again to my buddy Tim because he literally filled in the rest of my. I finally have all of their stuff on vinyl, and including quite a few of their singles and stuff. But Tim found some of the really hard to find ones, like obviously the late '90s stuff. So
Sure. All right. So that's definitely a great track. Mhm.
yeah, Beautiful Girl. Are we going to talk about the songs, or did you just want to kind of mention them and spend more time on the top 10?
Yeah, you can go through your honorable mentions. I've got all the time, so feel free, whatever you want to say about each song.
Yeah. So Beautiful Girl was, of course, written just by Andrew Ferris. And it was a time when he had sort of considered, I don't have to just worry about myself now. I've got a family, I've got a daughter. And that's kind of what prompted him to write this song. I was really surprised that Beautiful Girl wasn't really a massive hit for them. They did a terrific video. I don't know if you've ever seen the video. It kind of talks about female anorexia and bulimia and all the issues that girls and women have to go through. And I think it was even picked up for some women's empowerment campaigns, but it's quite a terrific video.
Yeah,
And
I'll have to check that out. I have not
yeah.
seen, honestly, I think the only video I've seen from that album is Heaven Sent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. I got a lot of catching up to do. So, but yeah, no, I've always loved that track. And I remember like thinking like, they've, kind of come back to more like melodic, stripped down a little bit music on that album after X. But yeah, I like that album a lot. Beautiful Girl is definitely one of my favorite tracks on that album. Mm-hmm.
Now, did you want me to go through all of my honorable mentions?
Yeah,
And then
yeah, you can just go
back?
through your honorable mentions, and then when we get to our top 10, we'll just go back and forth, our 10, 9, 8, and so forth.
Right on. So that would be number 15, for lack of a better.
Mhm.
Number 14 would be I'm Only Looking from the Full Moon Dirty Hearts album. So of course I bought this, I would have bought this on cassette originally when it came out. They used the song title for one of their DVDs that I think came out in 2004. I'm Only Looking, the best of INXS.
Oh, cool.
I really find, it's a really moody song. It's more of the kind of dancey, but like a lot of just soundscapey kind of stuff, as opposed to the other parts of the album, which are a little bit more grungier or rockier. And I really find that song, it showcases a lot of Michael's. He's not like a big vocal range guy, but he does, like, it starts out, he's basically talking. It's like talking kind of lyrics. And but he does do a little bit of his, you know, his deeper voice and his higher voice and stuff. So I've always really loved that song.
Yeah, well, and that album was when right in the middle of the grunge era. So it was,
Yeah.
how is NXS going to, you know, respond to all this heavier music that's coming out? And there's a lot of diverse styles on that album. I feel like, you know, in rising to the occasion, they really expanded their sound, kind of their sound palette, and also the types of styles. I mean, you got Ray Charles on
Yes, exactly.
amazing. You never would have thought that, you know, ever happened, but very cool album.
So my number 13 would be Devil Inside. So again, we're still with my honorable mentions. Managed
Well
to find
done.
a few of these 12-inch records. A lot of these I've actually picked up on trips to the United States. They seem to have a lot better selection than we do here in Canada, because you have 10 times the population. But yeah, so
Right.
Devil Inside, obviously off of Kick, pretty big song. It was the second single, and just a couple of quick things. I really like that kind of 8-note dun, 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 dun. I mean, INXS, I wouldn't really consider like a riff band, but I like that one. It kind of reminded me, 1987, that song comes out. The same year, The Cult. Are you familiar with the band The Cult?
I am.
Yeah, the Electric album, they had a song called Lil Devil. The same kind of little, you know, bare little note riff thing. That was kind of interesting. But yeah, I've always loved that song. It just barely missed my top 10. So
Yeah, well, and I like, you know, on that album, they show just how, you know, on that song in particular, they show just how effective space can be. You know, you don't have to be playing the guitar the entire time through the song or the verse. You know, it's just that, like you say, that
yeah.
there's like the space. And then, you know, then the guitar kicks in again. But it's just that, you know, it's Michael Stipe, his vocal, and the rhythm track, and then the guitar, you know, and it's so, when it's there, it's that riff. You can't mistake hearing that album when it comes on. And you know, immediately it's INXS, and it's so cool.
So my number 12, I'm gonna pull out an album cut for you. I'll tell you why I love this song. It's Johnson's Airplane from The Swing from 1984. So I told you I got into INXS fairly late. By the time I did get into the band, of course, I wanted to collect more of their cassettes. And on a trip to a city nearby, The Swing was the only cassette that I could find. So for quite a long time, I had Kick and I had The Swing, and those are the ones that I listened to constantly. So I do have quite a fascination with that record.
Yeah, that album, I actually didn't know that existed for a while. I thought they went from Shabu Shaba to Listen Like Thieves.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't realize there was an album in between until I found that cassette one day, and I'm like, what is this? I'd never heard the original Sin. I hadn't heard anything off there. And I'm like, where did this album come from? And that's how I discovered it, kind of late, but it was funny. I had no idea it even existed.
Yeah, so they worked with a guy who was famous for working with Duran Duran. I want to say Nick something. His name escapes me, the producer, but he's a really famous producer, and they gave him sort of like a dancey pop kind of feel. But I actually one of the things I really like about the song Johnson's Airplane, it's kind of peak storytelling in excess for me. Like he's talking about the farmers and a drought coming in, and it's hard work. And I really like some of the lyrics, and it's almost kind of poetic for me. Some of the
Yeah,
stuff
very
that
different
comes out.
subject matter for them.
Yeah.
Sure.
The last one I'm going to talk about in my honorable mentions is from Kick, and it's the very first song on Kick, Guns in the Sky.
Yeah.
I don't think that one was a single, but it was filmed. They did film a video for it. They filmed like 3 or 4 videos in Prague in the Czech Republic, and they all sort of have this similar kind of feel to them. They did the Guns and Sky video. Actually, when they were doing the New Sensation video, it's in the exact same hotel, just in between filming that one. When the band members were doing their other parts, he filmed them kind of just running down the hallway, and I just think that's such a cool video.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think Guns in the Sky was the B side of the 12-inch single for which track was it? Was it New Sensation, maybe?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. I think there's like a remix, some kind of remix of that song that ended up on that B side, but
Yeah.
used to have like a single.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, very cool. Love your honorable mentions. My first one, so I guess it's technically number 15, is off the X album. I'm gonna go with Lately, which
Oh, yeah.
yeah, the first song on side 2, if you had the cassette or the vinyl. Always love that track. I love the keyboards on it. I think it's a great Michael Stipe vocal. I mean, not Michael Stipe, Michael Hutchence vocal.
Ooh.
And yeah, I couldn't be farther from REM. But anyway, I've always loved that track. I think it's very cool. And it took me a while. When X came out, I was expecting another, Kick, but in ways it's very different from Kick. It's a little more subdued. You don't have a Guns in the Sky on here. You
Right.
don't have Calling All Nations on X. It's a very different, I think, stylistically. There's some familiar, but still, I think it's different enough. It was a little bit more mature, if that's the right word, maybe I'm looking for. But anyway, Lately, my number 15. My number 14 is going to be off of here, Heaven Sent.
Yeah.
First track I heard off here. And this is as hard as INXS has ever rocked on any of their tracks. It just kicks ass. And it's like full on. There's no apologies. I mean, when that riff kicks in, it's full on, that sonic assault. And I've always liked that because it was so different from anything I'd ever heard from INXS before. And it's like, oh, yeah, they're totally embracing the grunge era, and they're going to stand toe to toe with these other bands that are out. So always like that one. And then my number 13, I'm going to go to my Shabu Shaba album here for Golden Playpen.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I've always loved that album. I love, you got the sticks tapping to begin that, and then, the full guitar kicks in. And I love that riff. It's just something about that. I don't know. I've always got that Here Comes, which is almost a reprise of the track Here Comes, which is at the end
Yep.
of one on this album. So I don't know. I've always loved that. It's always kind of been a sleeper favorite of mine from INXS. So that is number 13. And then this one might surprise you also. Gonna go to Listen Like Thieves for this one, same direction.
Oh, yeah. Right
Side
on.
2. I love that. Ooh,
Yeah.
love that vocal hook right there. Like, and I love the instruments on it. You got some searing guitar work, and kind of sprinkled throughout that track. It's a driving rhythm. It's a great, like, I can imagine like driving down the highway 100 miles an hour with that track cranked. It's awesome. I've always loved that one. And then another surprise, I'm going as far back as I'm ever going to go on my list, to the Underneath the Colors album.
Okay.
Or the second track, Horizons. love that one on here. Some NXS fans are probably shaking their head like, what are you talking about? Underneath the colors. But I bought this cassette when I was in college, and I was like trying to buy up everything NXS. Anytime I'd see an NXS cassette that I didn't have, I'd grab it. So I got this one, and it's kind of moody. It's got a little bit of, it's kind of a piano based. I don't know even how to describe it, but it's kind of a moody, bit of a subdued track. But I just like it because I think it was so different from anything else on this album or that I'd heard from NXS to that point. So those are my honorable mentions, and we're ready to get into the heart of our top 10 list. Matt, you want to start with your number 10?
Sure. Coming in at number 10 is a song that all of the band members wrote, and there's another credit, and I'm still trying to find out the details of this. Anyway, the song is called Love Is What I Say from, of course, Swing, is my number 10. I believe it was a credit. The name is Anthony or Ananda Braxton Smith. I think it was one of Michael's first serious girlfriends. I just think it's a beautiful song that actually has a pretty serious message too. And yeah, I love it. Again, I've been infatuated with Swing since I've had the album. So
yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff on there. Like I said, I discovered it kind of late, but I was really happy with the album. And I love that. Just the bass is very prominent in that song. It's kind of like a big drum rhythm, and Michael sings a great vocal. It's really fantastic. My number 10 is going to be off of Kick. I'm going to go with Mystify. I love that track. Kind of that like tacky piano, rhythm at the beginning, and then you got the, during the first chorus, it's sort of like, I don't know, West Side Story almost a little bit there. But yeah, I've always loved this one, and it's sort of hidden away on side 2, but yeah, I like it a lot. That's my number 10.
My number 9 is, I think Andrew called this one of his most ambitious songs. It's The Stairs. And of course, this is off of X. And it's one of those songs that, builds and builds and builds into like a kind of a crescendo thing. And it's got, again, it's a kind of a serious topic song about, we pass each other on the stairs and barely know anything about each other. And we're all kind of the same kind of people, and we all have the same hopes and dreams, but we don't really know anything about each other, and we kind of just stick to our own kind of our road. But they did a fantastic version of that on Live Baby Live or Live Baby Live, or
yeah, nobody's ever settled that. What is it?
Yeah.
Which way do you pronounce it?
Yeah, so that's my number 9.
Yeah, no, that's a great track, and it's a universal message, whether it's the stairs or the hallway or anybody that you pass without really acknowledging them or giving a thought to them. But yeah, I think that's great. My number 9 is going to be the title track off Full Moon, Dirty Hearts. Just kind of a gritty track,
Yeah,
a little bluesy. Love this one. This was a standout one for me. First time I listened to this all the way through, and it still resonates with me today. I like it a lot, and for me, one of the stronger tracks off what is a really strong album.
and that's Chrissy Hynde singing with him on the
Yeah,
duet?
yeah. So not only is Ray Charles, but also Chrissy Hynde from the Pretenders.
Yeah, I was surprised actually. Tim picked up Full Moon, Dirty Hearts. He's like, I like this album. That really surprised me. I didn't think he'd get into it because it does have some of those moodier songs, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
My number 8 comes off of Welcome to Wherever You Are, and it's the song Taste It. Now I managed to find this looks like a little promo for the record. It's got club mixes and instrumental guitar mixes. So I don't know if you've ever seen the video to Taste It, but it's definitely the most sort of weirdest thing they've ever done.
Okay.
Have you ever watched it? Oh
No,
man,
but now I want to check it out.
yeah, you have to watch it. It's puts the band members in all these different sort of compromising positions. I'll just leave it at that. But I just love the build of that song. It's uh, directed by a UK director, Bailey Walsh. I don't really know him from much else, but I love the song. It's got like this really. They obviously Kirk Pengilly is great with the saxophone. It's got this kind of really piercing kind of thing in the near the end of the song. So yeah, I love that tune.
Well, it sounded like they were having fun again on that album with X. It almost felt like because of the success of Kick, there was so much pressure. How do you follow up an amazing album like that that had broken so many, sales record? It was their commercial breakthrough in much of the world. And how do you top that? And so it felt like the weight of the world was on them when they were recording X. And so with Welcome to Wherever You Are, a track like Taste It, it's like, wow, they're having fun again. Michael Hutchence has got, playful little, vocal that he does. And you got that, great guitar riff there that comes in, a nice kind of club dance beat with that track. Yeah, that one's great. That almost made my list. That was like, oh, I'm going to put this in honorable mentions. And I just ended up leaving it off. But that's always been a standout track for me. So funnily enough, for my number 8, I'm going to that album also. And it looks like the CD version I've got is kind of, I don't know if I'd necessarily call it a digipack, but
I have that. Yeah, I have both of those.
Oh, do you? Okay, so you got that
Yeah, and
one too.
and this one opens really strangely. It's like sometimes I'm like fiddling, like, how do I open this thing? It's one of those like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, I'm trying to figure it out because there's like the little arrow there. If you can
yeah,
see,
you gotta kind of.
you got to press that and then open it. But and I think part of that might have been because they could replicate like the lawn box or something if they had it on full. I don't know the reasoning behind that, but nonetheless, the track that I'm going with is Not Enough Time. Great track. As you know, because it's, I don't know. I think it's interesting because on the verses, it's just like the bass do 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 do. But then I love there, and then there's a little jing 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 jing. I love that funky. It's a funky track for INXS, and I think it's very cool. But anyway, I've always loved it. Should have been a single. Maybe it was it?
I think so. And actually, my wife on her list, that's like her number 3 song. So and it's also got a really very beautiful video. If you've ever seen that one, so
yeah, I like it, and it's my favorite on that album probably.
So my number 7 comes off of Shabu Shaba. Got that one on vinyl, and it's their closer, I guess you could call it, Don't Change, the song that I guess they basically closed most of their concerts with now. What can I say? It's sort of like the Rock and Roll All Night of Kiss for INXS.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. Again, that is a great album. I just did a video where I ranked my top 25 alternative albums of the 80s, and Shabu Shaba was the album that I picked from INXS.
Oh.
But there's so many good tracks. I know, it was so hard. It's like, listen like these, Kick.
Yeah. I think that I hate to say this, I love tracks off of their first 2 albums, but nothing made it on my list from the first 2 albums. I didn't find until Shabu Shaba, that's when they started kind of coming into their own sound.
Yeah, they really got it together on that album. And it's, for many people, their first, this is INXS's debut album, because they're not even aware of the first 2, but for all intents and purposes, maybe it should be. My number 7 is going to be off the swing. I'm going to go with Melting in the Sun.
Nice.
Yeah, I love that track. It's just got a kind of a gritty, and then you got the drums just do. love that, you know, between the heart and then the drum beat. Yeah, I think it's a cool track. I one of my favorites off the swing, and it swings, man. I love it.
You're picking so many songs that I wanted to find a way to fit on my list, but it was just impossible. So
Yeah, I
awesome.
know. Invariably, it happens.
So my number 6 is a long title. It's off of, so this is Listen Like Thieves. This is 12-inch, but this is actually the 12-inch single for Listen Like Thieves. And my number 6 is the B-side, Kiss the Dirt, Falling Down the Mountain. So Michael's basically said that this song is about, you know, at some point in your career, everybody, you can be at the top, but everybody eventually falls down to the bottom. And it's more about kind of enjoying the ride than just being at the top. So, and again, I keep talking about their videos, but you've got to see the video to this one. They filmed it in the Australian outback. So it's actually got a few spots where they filmed Mad Max. Doesn't really have anything to do with Mad Max, but it's got some really sweeping shots. And one thing I like about the song, it's got that do do do. You don't hear a lot of like just plain old acoustic guitar in INXS songs. So,
Right.
and I just love the song.
Yeah. Well, coincidentally, number 6 is also for me, Kiss the Dirt.
Right on.
How funny is that? No,
Yeah.
I remember the first time I heard it, this friend of mine, she had the album on vinyl, you know, back in the 80s. And I remember when I heard that, there was something about it where it almost sounded like a little bit out of tune or something, like that beginning
Yep.
strum or guitar strum. And I thought, is the record warped? Why does it sound so unusual? I mean, I think it's just the style of guitar that they used, but
yeah,
it's so catchy. I always loved it. And it comes after, I mean, What You Need and Listen Like Thieves. I mean, just they came out gangbusters on this album, and then they kind of quiet it down, but in a very catchy way with Kiss the Dirt. So yeah, that's very cool track.
So now we're into our top 5, and I will tell you without spoiling it ahead of time, my number 1 has basically been my number 1 for like the last 30 some years.
Okay.
Most of my top 5 has stayed there. 1 or 2 songs might come in and out, but hitting my top 5 right now, I'm super into Burn For You from, again, Swing. So
that's another white label promo.
yeah, exactly. They do a really fun version of this. I don't know if you've ever listened to their live album, Rocking the Royals, where they played in front of Prince Charles and Princess Di, but they do a really fun version of Burn For You on that.
Oh, cool.
And it's another one of those songs I love. It's got all the little, it's got like the, like I would call them like not standard instrumentation, but just do 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 do, and like all kinds of little like do do do. And actually, in the live video, you see. So Tim Ferriss is obviously usually known for playing the leads and some rhythm guitar. He spends most of the time at a keyboard as well, front of stage, when they do this song live to fill in all those little instrumental bits. So.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Now, is that available on DVD, or how do you get a hold of that concert?
Oh, I believe, I mean, it's on YouTube. They've never officially released the video, as far as I know. You can buy the album. It's literally one of the only things I've ever like bought, I guess, licensed on iTunes, because there was no other way to pick it up. So it's always on my phone now. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, my number 5, I know you left it off your list, but I'm going to Suicide Blonde off of here. Just a real gritty riff there. Another great driving song. Like I've taken trips and this song has been on, and I find like that speedometer needle starts climbing. The song comes on because it's such a great track. A great way to follow up the Kick album with a single like that. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of U2 Desire, The
Okay, yeah.
rattle and hum a little bit, where you just got like that great killer, almost like a retro guitar riff. But yeah, I always loved that track. And it was interesting, they had some remixes of that track
Yes.
out on single. I don't think any of them were particularly, the track wasn't meant to be remixed into like a dance mix or a dub mix. So I don't know that all those worked that great.
They were one of the first bands to kind of embrace that whole remix thing. And I find a lot of it's just sort of, they're taking it and extending the song way beyond what it really should be, which is fine if you're just dancing along and you're having a good time. But I definitely prefer the original version of every single song.
Yeah, no question.
It's funny, actually. So Suicide Blonde X would be the first album of theirs that I actually bought when it came out. So my first really super hyped album. And I mean, I love the song, but the first time I heard it, I was like, harmonica? I'm like 16 or 17 or whatever. I didn't really jive with it at first. Yeah, I love it now. And of course, they've opened with it. I think it was one of their kind of classic opening songs for their concerts. I have one tiny regret. I guess he's known as a blues legend. Charlie Musselwhite played the harmonica on that song. And just a couple of years ago, he played my hometown here at our blues festival. And I kind of regret not going to see that. I was like, man, I should have went to see that and showed them the record and got it signed. That would have been kind of cool. So
yeah, very cool.
Oh well, missed opportunity.
Yeah.
So my number 4 is off of Kick again. It is the 12-inch single for Need You Tonight.
I just picked up the 45 of that. I found the picture sleeve single.
I have that too. That's awesome. I think actually Tim might have sent that to me.
Okay. Yeah, no, Need You Tonight. Well, I think that was the first single, right?
Yes, it was. And of course, for a lot of people, especially people like my wife, it's all about his "come over here." The way he can kind of whisper and just makes the hair stand up on your arm. But a lot of people think of Need You Tonight as kind of like the quintessential INXS song. I guess for someone who doesn't really follow the band, that would be like the template song. It's funny that Andrew kind of basically wrote the gist of that song in like 15 minutes while he was waiting for a taxi to arrive and pick him up. So, and he kind of made the taxi wait for a little while because he had this idea and he had to go back and kind of fix it out. But yeah, Need You Tonight. What can you say about that?
Yeah, I can't imagine the Kick album without that song on it. I can't imagine any other. I mean, New Sensation's a great single, but that was really such a fantastic way to introduce everybody to that album. And the video is very cool. And I love how, on the album, it segues right into Mediate. You got
yes.
Kind of like, it reminds me of Tears for Fears on their album Songs for the Big Chair, how Head Over Heels on the album, it segues into like the Broken reprise. But on here, it starts, you got the last part of the beat from
Yep.
Night, and then the Mediate beat kicks in. It's just such a cool way that they blend the two like that. And I've them as like one entity.
I've apparently read that was an accident, that just, they had one thing queued up and another thing kept going and they heard it and they're like, yeah, let's do that. And so that's a kind of a happy accident sort of thing.
No question. Well, it works so cool. I love that. In the 80s, especially in the 80s, you didn't get, it was just all songs were separate. And then you got one song that blends into another. It's like, wow, how very 60s of you to do that. But yeah. It's really cool.
Something that actually absolutely still floors me to this day. So INXS had, Michael and Andrew had written this record, finished it, presented it to the record company. They didn't like it. In fact, they offered them like $1 million to go back into the studio and re-record this album. It blows my mind.
Oh yeah.
So of course they didn't do that, thankfully. And they chose to promote it another way. They went after the college radio stations. And I think college radio was one of the first kind of venue or like places to pick up on this song. So, and you know, it fits, right? It's a super sexy
Yeah,
song.
no question. Well, that was one that they did remixes of, and you know, you'd hear in the clubs, and I mean that one actually lent itself to a remix because it does have a dance beat, and
Yep.
Hutchins' vocal is so seductive, and
Yeah.
really,
And that was their only, as far as I know, that was their only like #1 kind of top 100 Billboard hit. So
yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
So my number 4, I'm gonna go back to Shabu Shaba for "Spy of Love"
oh wow.
off the first track. I love that one. I love like kind of the animal noises a little bit, or
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
animal, but it almost sounds you got like a bit of a xylophone kind of, you know, in the background. Almost feels like a Caribbean,
Yep. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
rhythm.
Love it.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I think it's a cool lyric. I think it's the way they perform it is very cool, and always been a fan.
That one is actually, I mentioned to you on my 40 sort of overall list of songs. That one's right at the top. So
Okay.
my number 3 is again from Kick. This is the song that got me into INXS, New Sensation. So I
Now
already talked about quite a
is
bit
Guns in
about
the
New
Sky on the
Sensation.
B side of that?
Oh, let me have a look. Yeah. Guns in the Sky, the kick-ass mix.
Yeah. Which I'm not a
Yeah.
fan of. I've heard it. It was on that single I had, and
Yeah.
you know, when a song's perfect, leave it alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, my
And
number
that, of
3.
course,
No, go ahead.
that's where, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna go into my number 3, but I think we're still talking about New Sensation. But
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so Live Baby Live, Live Baby Live, Live Baby Live, that's where they obviously came up. The lyric from that song is where they came up with the name of their video. So
yeah, no, I like the version on there a lot. I think it's one of my favorite. That was the one that really jumped out at me the first time that I heard that, was like, oh wow, that's such a cool version of that one. I am also going to go to Kick for my number 3. I'm going to the song that you've already mentioned, "Devil Inside." Right
yeah,
about it, but you know, I love that one. My favorite single off the Kick album. So
awesome. So we're into the final stretch here. The top 2, actually, after I looked at my wife's list, we both had the same top 2 songs. So that thought
oh,
that
no
was kind of
kidding. Cool.
interesting. Number 2 for me is from the Elegantly Wasted record, and it's
Wow.
the single from Elegantly Wasted. Elegantly Wasted. I can't believe this didn't even make the top 100. It wasn't a huge hit for them. Sexy as heck video. My wife made this comment, you know, they even took Andrew and made him look sexy in this video. So I was like, yeah. And again, you got that Gary Beers is kind of driving the song with his bass. And well, talking about Gary just real quickly, I didn't have any songs from the first 2 albums on my list, but I've been listening to them a lot lately, and in anticipation of doing this video with you. And I find that Gary is kind of the star of some of those records. Like some of his bass lines are not, you know, your typical kind of new wavy. He's a bit more John Taylor-ish, like trying some stuff. So
you think about how many INXS songs are bass driven. I mean, that doesn't happen without him. And you know, he makes it sing, he makes it you know, makes it funky, you know, all the things he adds. You know, the bass players always get underappreciated and overlooked, but you know, I'm glad you gave him some credit.
A couple of things just about that song in particular. I don't know if people knew they kind of had a little spat with Oasis. Now, I love both of those bands. As far as collecting for bands, you know, Kiss, INXS, Oasis are pretty much right at the top as far as having books and CDs and singles and all kinds of stuff about those bands. So when 2 of my favorite bands are kind of sparring, a little awkward. But so there was always been this kind of story about Michael went into the studio late at night one time, and after Oasis had kind of slagged them, the song "Elegantly Wasted," the chorus that he would say, "Better than Oasis." I have tried forever to hear that. I can't. There's a little bit where he does this like. It kind of sounds like maybe he's saying Oasis, but I've never been able to hear that. It drives
I
me
was,
crazy.
yeah, I was not aware of that, but I mean, Liam
Yeah.
fought with everybody. Is there a band Liam Gallagher didn't fight with at one time? Or,
Yeah.
I mean, even fought
Yeah.
with George Harrison, but you know, anyway, yeah, that's very cool. I'll have to listen for that. Sort of like,
And it wasn't. So it didn't even crack the 100 in the States, but it was a #1 in Canada. So there
oh,
you go.
okay. Well, you guys know what's good, so glad that got actually some recognition there then. My number 2 is going to be, I'm going to go back to Listen Like Thieves for This Time.
Ah.
Yeah, love that track. Love the opening guitar melody on it and great vocal. And love the chorus. It's so catchy. It's so infectious. Always loved that one. Should have been a single.
Yeah, they did. They also did a really cool kind of video for that one with a team called Godly and Cream. Now I knew this. I heard the name Godly and Cream, and I always associated with INXS and making videos. So apparently, they were like a musical band too, and they just eventually got into making videos or something. But it was one of the first videos that use. They called them Verilights. It's basically lights that you would control with a computer and be able to kind of program it all, and so you'd get all the different colors, and that was kind of a big thing for that song, that video. So for This Time.
Yeah. I Godly and Cream, they had a video on MTV back in the 80s when they did. I think they only did one album together. I think it might have been called Cry or something. And it's like
Okay.
the ending of the two faces. It was in black and white. And my brother and I used to make fun of it all the time because it was so kind of, at the time, it seemed ridiculous because we appreciate graphic arts and, you know, all the work that went into that and the technology. But anyway, that Godly and Cream has always been kind of like a running joke with my brother. So, all right. So I am very anxious, Matt, to find out what your number 1 is.
Okay. Well, this might not be a surprise. So it's been my #1 song. I kind of joked with my wife about moving it out of the top list or moving it down below, but I mean, it's Never Tear Us Apart, off of Kick. So just a little bit of background info, without getting into too much detail, but my wife and I were high school sweethearts. And so we dated in high school for 3.5 years. Didn't see each other again for another 14 years, got back together. And when we finally married in 2011, she walked down the aisle to Never Tear Us Apart. So, I mean, I kind of have to include that.
Yeah, I used to be in another life. We're talking 20 years ago. I used to be a wedding DJ, and that was such a popular track. You know, people used it as their wedding song. They used it as an intro. They used it as just they wanted a slow dance song. I mean, that was such a great track. And do they actually use a real string section on there, or is that all keyboards?
Oh, I'm actually not sure, but now that you mention it, this is one of the things where they went with their director Richard Lowenstein, who actually Burn for You was the first video that he did for them. Richard's done a lot of their kind of iconic videos. So Never Tear Us Apart. So sort of the first thing you see is like they're cut to Prague and it's all beautifully shot, and then you see the guys on the riverbanks, the classical musicians, and it blew my mind the first time I saw it because it actually is got a bit of extended intro in the video to the song versus like the one that you hear on the record. And they've kind of extended some of the classical musical bit a little bit. So I was like, whoa.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing that. That was very cool. I was like, oh wow, I want to get this on record, but. Very cool. Yeah, no, can't argue with that one. That one almost, another one that almost made my list, and then I find it's your number 1. I'm like, oh man, I should have found room for it. What am I thinking? But my number 1, I'm gonna go back to my favorite INXS album at the moment, Shabu Shaba, Don't Change.
Okay.
You know, I know it's maybe a cop out. People think, oh, it's so cliche, don't change. But I love that. As you know, it ends the album, and it's a great, majestic kind of a track. It's got great drumming, great rhythm, great Michael Stipe vocal. I mean, Michael Hutchence. God, why can't I get my Michael straightened out? I'm not going to edit this video, by the way. It's just going.
No worries.
But Michael Hutchence vocal. Yeah, I make no apologies. That's my.
It's not as the song's not as well known as I wish it was. It's the song that they generally close all of their concerts with. I've seen them live 3 or 4 times. Sadly, not with Michael, but every time they closed it with "Don't Change." So,
yeah, great track. Great list. So many as we're going through the list and you're giving your list, I'm thinking like, oh, why don't I have that one on? And anytime I do this video with somebody else, I'm always thinking like, oh, that's such a great choice. How could I have left that off mine? But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this video. And INXS has got a great catalog of music. And I always know, because I get the comments in my video section. Well, what about this song? What about that album? And,
yep.
Anybody out there, you want to put down your top 10 INXS list in the comment section, feel free. I'm always interested in what other INXS fans regard as their top 10 list. Matt, thanks so much for joining me. This is a lot of fun. And I'm hoping that in the future, maybe we can do a Beach Boys together. That'd be a lot of fun, or the Beatles or something, because I know we're both fans of those bands. So, again, you can check Matt out on Tim's Vinyl Confessions. He's a very frequent guest contributor. Since the pandemic, he looks a lot like this on Zoom video.
Yeah.
But Tim's got an excellent channel. Tim and I are doing a video together for his channel this weekend that probably won't air until the spring, but always loved Tim's channel. That's the first time I got to actually see Matt and go through some of his collection. But Matt's got an amazing collection. He really needs his own channel. I'm going to try and work as great a collection as he's got. You can only see some of the DVDs back there, but some of Tim's videos you can see. And it's funny because I've got up in my bedroom, I've got like a big widescreen TV, and I'm watching videos that they do in your office, and I'm like looking at your CD.
Yeah.
What's he got? I see some Oasis. What else is it? Oh, there's Kiss.
Yeah.
I usually do that sometimes to my videos. I'll get comments about, oh, I see you got Pink Floyd Pulse. I can see it blinking in the background, or whatever. But it's always fun, to kind of go through our collections like that. But Matt, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And everybody, check Matt out on Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.